Chicago. Hold on to something, because it just happened. After weeks of speculation, after dozens of names being floated, after an entire fan base refreshing their phones every single hour praying for good news, the wait is finally over. A brand new arm has officially landed in Chicago. A genuine, battle-tested, postseason proven starting pitcher is putting on the Cubs jersey as we speak. But here's the part nobody's talking about yet. The part that's got insiders whispering behind the scenes right now. This might not even be the biggest move of the day. There's another domino sitting right on the edge, ready to fall. And if it does, this entire deadline story flips completely on its head. Stay with me, because we're breaking down exactly who just arrived, what it means for this rotation, and what could be coming next before the clock hits 0 tonight. Quick welcome before we dive in. If you're new to this channel, this is your home base for the fastest, most straightforward Cubs breakdowns out there. No filler, just facts and real analysis. And like always, I want to know a little more about who's actually watching. So drop it in the comments right now. How long have you been a Cubs fan, and where in the world are you tuning in from? I genuinely read every single comment, so let's get this community rolling from the jump. All right, let's rewind and set the table, because the last 48 hours in the baseball world have been absolutely relentless. Saturday night, the sport got completely turned upside down when the single best pitcher in the game, a two-time reigning Cy Young winner, got traded away in a stunning blockbuster that sent him to the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team that honestly didn't even need the help. 3 top-tier prospects went the other way. And the second that trade landed, every single front office still working the phones felt the shockwave, including the one right here on the north side. Because now, the best arm on the board was gone, prices across the entire market spiked, and Chicago's front office knew they had to move, and move fast. So today, on the eve of the deadline, with the clock ticking down towards 6 o'clock Eastern tonight, the Cubs finally pulled the trigger. Chicago has acquired veteran right-hander Kevin Gausman from the Toronto Blue Jays. Let that sink in for a second. This is not some depth arm, not a project, not a guy you're hoping figures it out in September. This is a pitcher who was the ace of a Blue Jays team that went all the way to the World Series just last year. A pitcher with real, legitimate October experience, 14 games worth of it over his career, including a sub-3 ERA across more than 30 innings during that pennant run. This is a guy who knows exactly what it feels like to pitch in the biggest games of the year, and now he's bringing that experience straight into a Cubs rotation that has been absolutely desperate for exactly this kind of presence. And here's what makes this move even smarter. Look at the price tag. To get a pitcher of this caliber, Chicago only had to give up 2 prospects, an outfielder and an infielder, neither one considered a true top-tier piece in their farm system. That is, frankly, a steal. Toronto's season fell apart down the stretch. They slid into cellar mode, and the Cubs swooped in and got a rotation upgrade without gutting their future. Gausman slots in immediately near the top of this rotation, joining Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd, giving Chicago a top 3 that suddenly looks a whole lot more like a legitimate playoff group instead of a patchwork built out of necessity. And remember, this team desperately needed exactly this. At one brutal stretch earlier this season, the Cubs had a full 13 pitchers sitting on the injured list at the same time. 13. 30 different injured list stints on the pitching staff overall this year. This organization has been playing with one hand tied behind its back for months, and adding a durable, dependable, championship-tested arm like this is exactly the kind of reinforcement this locker room has been asking for. But now, here's where it gets really interesting, because multiple reports are indicating this might not be the last move Chicago makes today. Insiders have suggested the front office originally targeted adding not just 1, but as many as 3 pitchers before tonight's deadline hits, which means Gausman may just be the appetizer. And that brings us to the name still buzzing hardest around the league right now, a hard-throwing, 20-something left-hander out in Anaheim, a pitcher who's quietly been putting together one of the most underrated stretches of any arm on the entire trade board. His surface numbers don't jump off the page, but dig one layer deeper. His underlying metrics, his strikeout rate, his recent form. And you're looking at a pitcher who's been getting unlucky, not bad. And the kicker? He's not just a 2-month rental. He's controllable for years. If Chicago finds a way to also land this arm before the deadline closes, this rotation transformation goes from good to genuinely scary heading into October. There's also chatter still circulating around a former all-star right-hander currently pitching in New York, a guy having a rough statistical season, but with the kind of raw stuff that makes rival evaluators believe a change of scenery could unlock something special. And on top of the incoming pieces, don't forget, There's still tension on the outgoing side, too. A young infielder who's become something of an odd man out following a big free agent addition earlier this year has reportedly been floated in trade conversations as a potential piece heading the other way in a deal for more pitching. So even with Gausman officially in the fold, today is far from over. Let's talk timing too, because this couldn't have landed at a better moment. The Cubs currently sit 6.5 games back of a red-hot Milwaukee team, but they are still holding onto that all-important top wildcard position in the National League. Adding a proven, postseason-tested arm right before a brutal stretch of the schedule gives this team exactly the kind of jolt it needs, both for this final playoff push and for the confidence boost of knowing the front office is truly all in. Here's my honest read on where this goes from here. Kevin Gausman, by himself, is already a legitimate, meaningful upgrade. A pitcher who instantly makes this rotation more postseason ready the moment he steps on the mound at Wrigley. But if this front office manages to squeeze one more real difference maker through the door before tonight's deadline closes, especially that young, controllable lefty out west, we are talking about a completely different conversation heading into September. This wouldn't just be a team hanging onto a wildcard spot anymore. This would be a team that legitimately believes it can go toe-to-toe with anybody in October. So here's what I want to know from you. Are you satisfied with Gausman as the headline move of this deadline? Or are you holding out hope that one more surprise lands before that clock hits 0 tonight? Drop your prediction in the comments right now. I want to see who calls it before it actually happens. And again, don't forget to tell me how long you've been a Cubs fan and where you're watching from. I love seeing just how far this fan base really stretches. If this breakdown helped you make sense of everything happening today, do me a favor and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed, because the second any more news drops before tonight's deadline, I'll have it here for you first. No delays, no fluff. All right, Chicago, deadline day is officially heating up. Stay locked in. I'll see you in the next one. Go Cubs, go.